All right. I'm going to have to be a little bit quiet because the family's back home and have someone sleeping upstairs, so I have to be mindful of that. Really, really great chapter. This chapter 10. Really awesome. Especially this last part, which is going to be one of the most visually impressive things to, in your mind's eye. It's just, I was on the edge of my seat in the same way that I was on the edge of my seat when Lady Envy and the Segula, and was it Gareth and Talk the Younger, they go into this, and Tool was there at the time, right? They go into this Panian temple, and then they're kind of, Lady Envy's being very kind of confrontational, and then Talk the Younger wakes up, and there's just this carnage going on. And I thought this was going to be a 2.0 for that, but it still could happen. Who knows? But I was just on the edge of my seat at that moment in Memories of Ice, and at that moment here. Now, I did write some notes that I have just on my screen here for some of it, but then when we get to that scene, I'm going to open the book. So we did get Endist for this first scene, and we get Kaladin Brood again, and he's at the river. He's not really going to say why he's at this river. Endist has kind of taken a little bit of a leave of absence, and he mentions that he doesn't believe in forgiveness, and that would be something very ingrained in him as a Tist-Andi, because they've been separated from Mother Dark. And man, I love this chapter. It might be one of my very favorite chapters in the series so far. I just got so much out of it. And it's just ingrained. It's just they've come to terms that they don't have this hope. When Mother separated, it was like, that's it. That's it. And I want to also just mention here, since I have you, I mentioned that I was annoyed with Solara and what she did, trying to make Crocus jealous. It was more of an offhand comment. I still love Solara. And maybe, I think I was in the mindset that, it was this breakup, like this nasty breakup, and it really wasn't. It's a sad thing, but we know that Crocus loves Apsalar, and when they get to this city, he just kind of forgets about Solara, and he says he's going to show her around. And really, Crocus has been maybe the first person to really show her a little bit of humanity himself in her life. So obviously he means a lot to this girl. And but I've liked that she has shown this humanity to Barathol, and she has shown this also to Duerker, and she's going to be, she was kind of like the hot date, hanging on Duerker's arm to just kind of, and I think I read it a little bit wrong. I really like Solara, though, and I like that they all just brought her in, and they're like, I like that she has this group now to be kind of a group to be part of. So I think I was just maybe a little bit thinking that it was more negatively charged than it was. But I really like Solara. Anyway, let's get back to things. We also have Samar and Traveler kind of in the wake of, in Karsa's wake. And they're both kind of worried. Traveler's really, really anxious about running into Karsa and what he can do, especially if he has Rulad's sword now. But they run into him, and And then Karsa immediately thinks, "Oh, this is your husband. No wonder you were denying my advances. We should fight now, though. Me and you, Samar's husband." And and she puts a stop to that and is like, "No, this is not my husband, and that's not why I was denying your advances." And like he kept saying, anyway, that was from the other book. But I love that he has inherited this captain's kind of role, and then he immediately just freed them all, broke the chains, so to speak. But yeah, really, really great. And we have Saland. This is one of two big moments, in my opinion, in this chapter. We have Saland, and she has this kind of fever dream where she sees all these pregnant women just wandering along. A lot of the imagery kind of echoes the burden in Dragnipur. Both that, and we had this captain with the 2-level carriage that echoes it. And now we have these many pregnant women, and also echoes, all these different instances for these women to have children, and many of them, at least a portion of them, would be under bad circumstances, but all of them, in some respect, are a burden. By becoming a mother, you take on that burden where you don't just live for yourself anymore. And she's having this sort of thing where she's watching as they pass right through her, and she kind of can witness the lives of these children. And I just love that as a theme, these themes of burden and Harlow, and yeah, it's just such a chilling sort of theme. And she feels like this is a vision coming straight from the Redeemer, or from Ikovian. And now she feels like she knows what she must do. And she hears this thing in the name of the Redeemer, and then she wakes up as Spinnick, who I really like, has been tending to her, taking care of her. And now she feels, actually there's like there's a lot of big portions of this chapter. But now she feels as if her and Seerdamin must go and get Mother Dark to offer up redemption for her children. Remember, this chapter started with not believing in forgiveness, but how about restitution? How about restitution? How about, because of what Animander did, they were separated, but when is it enough? When is it enough? And I can think in my own family, I have kids. There obviously are things that would really be hard to swallow as a parent, your kid doing, but when would it be so much that it would separate me from being able to at least love my kids? Obviously there's lots of terrible things where you'd just be repulsed, but after all this time, think of the people in Dragnipur and the people that have done terrible things. Some of the things don't even, they kind of like ditched out on a battle, and now they have this endless torment, and it's like, man, that is rough. That is rough. So if they could get Mother Dark to forgive her children, or to at least have this restitution, that would be a major precedent, I think. Because if they can do that, then what other ways can we get some of this restitution being done. It would offer hope to these Ch.10, who I am just loving more and more. The way I felt about the Edur, they were the first ones where my heart went out to the Edur. Even though I loved Ch.10 characters like Corlat, especially, I felt the way I do now about the Andi. I felt that about the Edur, and now I'm feeling that about the Andi more and more, and about a lot of these other characters. And feeling that about probably the Talani Mass were the first group where I really felt for them in Memories of Ice, especially. So let me see. I did write some notes down. That would be major. So the Seer Damin goes back to where, under this mountain or something in these tunnels where talk was being held and where a lot of terrible things were obviously happening. And he was taking part in this. Actually, before I go to that, I skipped a little bit. Spinnick is envious. He's a little bit envious that Salind is getting like a vision or getting spoken to by her patron, because they've been on their own for so long. They've been forsaken, these Ch.10 under Animander. They've been forsaken, and obviously that makes them feel a certain way. Bless your children, Mother Dark. They have suffered enough. I love that part, and I want that to be a part of the ending of either this book or the series at large, because so much of this is like this enforced peace, but to be able to do that, it's like we are going to separate people who have done wrong, and like they are going to be in this eternal damnation sort of thing, and we want some sort of restitution for a lot of these people in a way. I feel that. And she doesn't know. There's this interesting thing. There's this candle lit, and nowhere in this room was darkness after she does this. And that, she realized, was answer enough. And I'm not exactly sure how to take that, but I think that's something. That's something. The Seer Damin goes to where talk was kept. He goes to these mountain tunnels. He does not deflect the blame of what he did to those that were threatening to like kill him or torture him. He doesn't. How did I write it here? Because it was to him, justification was an act of cowardice. For it was that type of cowardice that permitted the crimes in the first place. And he writes something like, the tyrant thrives when the first fool salutes. Reminds me of some of the books like Ordinary Men, of the people who were Nazis, and they went and they did all these things. They seemed very, very normal, but were kind of just going along with things. And obviously you could justify it by what they might have to fear, but Seer Damin is not going to do that. He's going to carry what he did. And I think he's a very, very compelling character who's taking on his burden, but you want it to be released from the guy. You want it to be released from, especially someone like that, who's willing to take it on and really, right? It's very interesting. He finds people there, and he begins to like do this Inglorious Bastard sort of cutting the way through it, just killing these people, but he feels very strained by this. He finds out the plan that they're trying to get rid of the Ch.10, because certainly if they can get rid of that, things will change. And he is sort of conflicted by what he is to do. He doesn't want to be like a reaper here, but he does want to know what's going on, and he does want to protect people. And he is devastated, thinking, what if Salind is a part of this? And then we have this Monkrat, a priest of the rats, who sees this and is like, uh-oh, this isn't good. Okay, now I hope I can just zip through this, but we get to the city of Bastion. And this is the scene that just was so exciting and had me at the edge of my seat. So riding along, Skintick says, a name like Bastion invites images of ferocious defenders bristling with all manner of weapons. We must be witness here to the blessed indolence of Sayman Kellic, which is the Kellic drink. It's just the short or the longer version of saying Kellic. The dying god's sweet blood. And they go in and they see these bodies wrapped and dried on sticks. They can see these wells with these bodies, and Kellic is like bloating them. And it's just, the more you just have one sip of it, and they get drawn in, and it would be especially addictive to a Ch.10, it seems to imply. There are hundreds of these wrapped figures, and they figure they're being watched and almost guided towards this inn where they can stay, and there's fresh linens and some food and stuff, and it's like they're being welcomed in, and this whole city is acting like a temple to the dying god, and they figure if there's a temple, there must be an altar. And I was just on the edge of my seat with this. Every time we get into like one of these sorts of temples thing, I don't know what it is, but it's like we're going to see some stuff. We're going to see some stuff in here. So they're delivering clip, and you have to think, what is going to happen when they get clip to this altar? Is he going to become this ultimate kind of tool for this dying god, and it's just going to be awful? Like, I fear what's going to happen when that happens, and you know, it seems like it's leaning towards that, and I just worry. And they're kind of getting behind this Aranantha, and I don't really understand why she's so powerful, but I mean, I'm just going with it. So what are we waiting for? Let's get this over with. Patience, brother. We're waiting for the official welcoming party, and as they're going in, I might be able to skip some stuff. They see this broken Ch.10 thing that has like fallen out of the sky, but it's not a full sky keep. It's something smaller, and they even wonder. They even consider if maybe this is like the throne to the dying god, and maybe he died crashing to the ground, or maybe this was like some kind of attack from the Ch.10. Like, who knows why this is here? But Calor wonders that, and these other people wonder that. They wonder why it failed. They can hear this singing, voices in the distance. It's just such an atmospheric. I felt the atmosphere here so much in again, like going in this Panion temple. I just felt the atmosphere in there, and there's something just so compelling about that, where you're just waiting for things to pop off. They see these glyphs on the walls, and they almost resemble this Skykeep sort of stuff, like it's kind of a part of what's going on. I don't know if the dying god is going to be a child. Like, it seems like it's been suggested that it's a child, or maybe some kind of version of a Ch.10. Like, maybe the Ch.10 have have changed over time, where they've become these sort of monstrous types. Like maybe they talked at one point. Maybe the dying god was like, a version of them, or who knows? I still don't know. Very cool, though. We skip along. They get to this inn. And yeah, I think I've gone over some of this stuff, that I don't need to go over all that again. Then all these people show up. This raving mob, as Ch.10 and Nimander kind of go out to check out what's happening. And they wonder what they should do. They can't just run back to the inn because they'll be followed. So do they make a stand? And then they hear a sword hissing out of the scabbard, and it's Calor. And I got goosebumps. I just got goosebumps again. I just got, like, it's so exciting to me. Calor is such an exciting character. You kicked them awake. We were just discussing what to do now. You can stand and fight. And then he goes forward, and they're like, should we help him? And he's like rolling his shoulders, and he's swinging his sword. He doesn't look so old anymore. And they kind of like go apart. They kind of scatter a little bit, as if, they are waiting for the Ch.10. And this is almost like a last, I think of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Like this is a test for them. If they have to get through this group of people that they might have to kill to get through them, to really make, for them to use the altar. It's just a part of the ritual. As if it's, you think of these different rituals as you go deeper in, and da-da-da-da-da. And this would be a part of that. And let me just, they think, so they kind of fade to the distance. They say, do you think Calor and the dying god will have a nice conversation? Observations on the weather, reminiscing of the old tyrannical days when everything was all fun and games, back when the blood was redder, its taste sweeter, do you think? Oh, and sorry, I didn't mention also, but that just reminds me of the epigraph as well, which I won't go into, but it's this thing with, will you come to tell me when the music ends? Will you come to tell me when the music ends? And this just reminds, all of this feels like it's the ending of an era or a major shifting point here. Anyway, that was maybe the wrong time for that tangent, but yeah. Let's see. What of Clip? This Kellic is worse than the plague because its victims invite it into their lives. Remember what this means to them. And then are indifferent to their own suffering. It forces the question, have we any right to seek to put an end to it? To destroy it? Maybe not. But there's another issue, and that is mercy. And he shot his cousin a hard look. We kill them for their own good? Abyss, take us, Skin. Not them, of course not. I was thinking of the dying god. If they could get to the dying god without the need for slaughter of hundreds of worshippers, and then they kind of make this decision that they're going to not cut their way through, but they're going to sneak their way through, carrying Clip. We are the children of darkness, Ch.10. Let us see if that still means something. So awesome. Let me see. I don't want to go through too much of this, but Clip is dying. And they Nimander, they're putting their trust in Nimander. I don't want to go too far into that. So let's go to the last scene here because I want to end it here so it doesn't go too long. I think I've talked about it long enough. So Crone is circling above Solana, and she's like, I know you're up here, but she's being like a still statue and kind of does this little quiver to let her know that she sees, I don't know, whatever. But she recognizes that Crone is above, and he sees that Animander Rake stands alone, like everyone who feels like they're standing alone in this burden. Even the people pulling burden, they say that it's this collective thing, but again, they feel like they have stood alone, and Spinnick is alone, and a lot of these people feel like they're alone. In the last book, they split the E-Doer until they were all little solo pieces as much as they could. And in here, it feels like people are just alone, and they feel like they're alone. This is Crone saying, does the view ever change? And he regards her for a time, and then she opens her beak to laugh in silence for a few heartbeats and says, the Tistandi are not a people prone to sudden attacks of joy, are they? Dancing into darkness, the wild, cheerful cavort into the future. Do you imagine that our flight from this rotting flesh was not one of rapturous glee? Pleasure at being born? Are they like they're embarrassed by this, but it was this moment again. Maybe not embarrassed. Maybe that's the wrong word, but they don't really want everyone to know this. Pleasure at being born, delight at being alive. Oh, I have run out of questions for you. It is indeed now a sad time. Does Baruch understand Crone? He does. More or less. Perhaps. We'll see. Something is happening to the south. Right? People... I love that this is the same sort of thing that happened in Memories of Ice, really with all of these, but there's this north-south thing happening again. Maybe he doesn't know. Oh, wait. Clearly you fear the worst. Tell me. Have your kin seen? He replied. She's like, we've been all over the place. The darkness of yours, master, breeds fierce storms. So it does. I will fly high above the twisting clouds into the air clear and cold. And so you shall, Crone, so you shall. I dislike it when you are generous, master, when that soft regard steals into your eyes. It is not for you to reveal compassion. Stand here, yes, unseen, unknowable, that I might hold this in my mind. Let me think of the ice of true justice, the kind that never shatters. Listen, I hear the bells below. How sure that music, how true the city of iron. You are poetic this day, Crone. It is how great ravens rail at grief, master. Now, kind of like the Fisher Kultath. Now what would you have me do? And Salan is at the deep river. Hardly alone, I should think. He must return. Fly true, Crone. I pray you tell your beloved the same, master, when the time is nigh. His beloved mother, who knows, or whatever. Like he smiled. There's no need for that. Anyway, very, very, very awesome chapter. It gave me chills several times reading it, and it really set things up for this convergence. I've been kind of waiting for some of these things that I was hoping to converge, and this certainly gave me a few things to hope for. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys on the next one, whenever that's going to be. I don't know if I'll be reading tonight anymore, because I've done so much in the last few days, and I might just need a little break for a day, but who knows? Maybe I'll read another chapter tonight. So I'll talk to you on the next one.